Welcome to All Things Chiropractic.
Welcome to another episode of All Things Chiropractic. I'm Paul Andrews.
And I am Dr. Mark Davini. Welcome.
Well, here we are, the conclusion of 2025, just about here.
Oh my God.
What a year, right?
Oh my God. It's a blink. It's a blink.
It is. So as we look at the last day of the year today, moving into next year, we are preparing for year-end and New Year webcast every year for our members. We put it out there, just things for them to consider and think about as they, move into the new year, how to prepare. So we're not going to broadcast a webcast on our podcast, but we're going to talk about some of these things because they're interesting as far as, the New Year's go. Certainly there's parts of the New Year that I enjoy, but so...
Well, I would say the first thing everybody has to do to prepare for the new year is to prepare for doing the preparation for the new year. This is something that should actually be scheduled. This should be a part of your office where you're closed for whatever amount of time you need to close 2025 out and welcome 2026. If you think you're going to squeeze all this stuff in between here, there, and everywhere, it's not effective. And again, it doesn't help you as a business because it's nice to do it as a team. And everybody has tasks and everybody has duties and you're all in the office together making and almost in some respects reveling in the past year and getting excited about the new year.
Yeah. Let's talk about one of the things I like the most, which is about setting goals. I'm going to jump to that because I never did this as a youth or youth.
A youth.
Youth.
Yeah.
But
back in the
when I started
cousin Vinny.
Yeah, exactly. When I started working for a chiropractor and he would tell me how he would do it, I started doing it myself and I thought it was kind of rote at first. You're like, oh, what am I doing? How am I going to think of this? But then over time, as the years clicked by, I found it very it was comforting. It was a way of taking what you think your goals are for the year and pulling them out of the air, your head, putting it on paper. And as time goes on, realizing if you really want to achieve these goals, you have to make a plan, not just write down, this is what I wish for. This is what I want.
Yeah, well, the old saying, no plan is a plan to fail, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how can you expect something if you haven't even defined what it is you want?
And then a path towards that.
Exactly.
Like every year I could easily say, I want to lose 10 pounds. Well, saying that, writing that down isn't going to achieve it unless I create a path to actually make that happen.
Exactly.
Certainly after the holidays, most of us feel that way. However,
I mean, imagine telling a patient, well, you're going to need to be adjusted multiple times. And that's it. You leave it up to fate to determine when, where, and how many times they come into your office. I don't think that's going to work out so well. We're very clear in defining our expectations with our patients. We should be doing the same thing with us.
Yeah. And so I kind of break up my goals into certain categories like personal and family. And then I have spiritual, and then I have professional, and then I have financial. And I break up professional and financial because to me, they're different. What I want to achieve financially may be connected, obviously, to my profession, but what do I want to advance or set goals in my professional life, things that I want to achieve? It could be, learning something new or maybe scaling something back, whatever it may be. But I like to break them up. And over time, what's interesting is as I look back, and you should keep these because you should look back to previous years, maybe when you're doing your goals, to one, see what I have or haven't achieved. More interestingly is what I thought I wanted. And I'm like, that's not clearly something I would want now. Why did I want it then?
So sometimes when you look back in these goals and you say, that never happened, and you realize that was a good thing that never happened.
Yeah,
So,
boy,
you
yeah.
know, yeah,
Boy, is that
you're
true.
being watched over.
Yeah, exactly. But, I always find it interesting because then you can also like kind of remind yourself of where you were in life at those particular junctions every single New Year's.
Yeah.
You
How the
know,
focus changes.
boy, is that true.
As you get older,
Yeah.
sometimes it's just, I
Yeah,
want to tie my shoe.
health. Yeah, ADLs. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Sit around a Dunkin' sometimes and just hang in the corner away from the group of seniors in the corner and listen to the discussion. And you're going to find out everything you need to know about every doctor in the city.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Because that's all they talk
Yeah.
about is the doctors and their health problems.
So, as we talk about the new year, our webcast brings you through the practicals, right? So our members already know this. If they don't, they can pick it up under our My Videos, or just take a look at our Wisdom Wednesday. It'll post up every week on our newsletter. But when we look at those things, I say to myself, okay, you're right. You have to schedule some of this stuff, because if you just overlook it, sometimes it's a compounding problem. Right? Or you've missed the opportunity, like our PAR versus non-PAR Medicare. Well, it's the 31st of December. It's too late now. You're not gonna get that letter into the MAC carrier by today.
You missed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even if they received it today, they're not doing anything, and they'll just tell you they never got it. Right. So
kind of a Zen way of approaching it too is they say that you should always clear out your closets, always clean your corners and get the cobwebs out. So what the year end gives you the opportunity to do is touch everything mentally, physically, touch it and see where things may be working or not working in your practice. And it's kind of like the storage unit mentality. You get the storage unit, you throw a bunch of stuff in it that you think you need or that you think is so important. And 5 years later, when you haven't even gone to the storage unit once, you realize, well, how important can that be? I just lived the last 5 years without it. And it's the same thing with your practice. When you're going through the year end and you're touching all this stuff, you might finally decide it's the year to go PAR or non-PAR. Or it might finally be the year that you decide that you're going to drop this insurance or add this insurance. You wouldn't know unless you stopped and thought about it.
And another thing to prepare for, and we're going to have to prepare for it again, is when we talk about Medicare, we are with PAR versus non-PAR, right? But that pesky fee schedule, because it updates every calendar year. However, federal legislation always can influence it. And when we're looking at facing another continuing resolution in January, if it doesn't pass, but then it passes later on, we could have what we had like a few years ago where the fee schedule retros, and now Medicare's contractors are going to have to process or reprocess these Medicare claims from the first quarter of the year, depending on when it passes, if it has an influence on the fee schedule. And the nightmare that the billing side has with posting or either posting additional few cents or retractions of additional few cents on every visit, which is even worse.
And this is a perfect example of what this end of the year thing can be part of what this end of the year thing is, that you sit there with the calendar and you say, okay, I'm going to write in the March calendar, check fee schedule for Medicare. I'm going to write in my calendar, decide on PAR versus non-PAR next November or whatever. You tickle yourself, which that's what they called it, right? They used to tickle yourself reminders of things that might show up during the year rather than leave it up to happenstance. So it's, again, one of those things you do when you start closing out one year and open up the next.
One of the good things about ICD-10 is that it updates in October every year. So it's one of those things where you don't have to like necessarily deal with it at the end of the year, because you would have dealt with it October 1st.
Something as big as ICD-10 for sure,
Yeah. So it's actually helpful that, as random sort of as it is that it updates in October every year.
Yeah.
It's
do your
helpful.
statistics, do you find out, how good a year was it? Where are my patients? did I gain? Did I lose? Am I maintaining do I have retention, which we've talked about? All these good things. You sit down and you have the opportunity to just revel in your past year and go, okay, that was a great year. Now, what can I do to make next year even better? Back to the goals.
Yeah, back to the goals. And, probably if you look over time, some of the goals might be to be less reliant on the big insurance carriers for their reimbursement, which is always, even when it goes up a few pennies, it is really a negative because of inflation and the burden of administration.
Oh, that's what and it's fun. I know everybody just laughed when I said that. Right?
Yeah, sure.
It can be fun because you're planning your life. Isn't your practice like a big portion of your life? You're planning it out. You're making, you're giving yourself the opportunity to create something better, bigger, different, whatever. Maybe next year is the year I focus on my quality of life and I'm going to finally start taking Fridays off or whatever it is that you plan on doing. That's what this is all about, is stopping, taking a look and deciding what needs to be handled now and what can be handled later and what it is where am I moving toward? Where am I going? Which direction am I pointing this machine I call practice?
The reports are interesting to look at. Sometimes they're depressing, but mostly, at least they're educational, hopefully.
Always that, right?
Every software spits out reports a different way. None of them are always perfect. Some of them are really not that perfect. But even if you keep your own stats or you supplement what your EHR can or can't spit out of yours for reports, I think it's important to focus in on some meaningful statistics. One is, and we've talked about this in episodes, we have resources for our members on our site, is it's a perfect time when you're rounding out your bookkeeping for the end of the year is to get your per patient visit average cost down. Because
and profit.
And then subsequent to that, you can figure out your per patient visit average collected and figure out what your profit margin really is. Because that's important and it can help you focus and or shift from focusing on financial classes that aren't as lucrative, perhaps, as others.
Yes, sometimes you're part of a carrier, a participating doctor in a carrier, insurance company, and all of a sudden you sit down and you go, I make like $3 a visit from this carrier, and I only have like 20 patients that use this carrier, but yet I have to chase that $3 over and over and over again. That might be one of those decisions where if you sit down and examine everything, you go, guess what? I'm getting out of that plan. I'm going to make my life better. I'm going to get out of that plan.
Yeah. We get that question, I wouldn't say often, but regularly enough that it pops in my mind is should
podcast on it.
Should I stay in network, right? And it's to me, it's always a business decision,
right?
Mostly because, as the Dr. Davini just said, you're chasing small money, and sometimes the administrative burden is so high, or they put you in these administrative classes that you object to. I remember one doctor joined a large network, and then he is of the school of, I take x-rays on all my new patients. I want to see what's going on inside. But that carrier he had gotten network with was not of the same philosophy.
We don't care.
Downgraded him some tier that, he had to get beg for visits after 8 or something like that. And he's like, I'm out of here. I'm not staying in the network with this thing. And that's when I learned from that network that unless somebody else, another provider of your specialties in the area, you might be stuck in that network until another specialty provider comes into the area. How dangerous is that? I mean, I would probably just close the tax ID and open a new one. Get out of that thing. But
yeah, or I'd let my Italian take over and just not care.
Yeah. Or sometimes it's like, the copays now are becoming the same price as your time of service administrative discounted fees or whatever. So it's like, well, why am I going to deal with filing claims and dealing with all this?
Yeah, and I know, like you've always said, patients want to use their insurance. They have it, they want to use it. So it goes back to things that we've said in other podcasts about building the value into your service to the point where they recognize that it's not worth it for them also to submit to their insurance. So yeah, you might erode your deductible a little bit of this or that, but you make it you make them understand the value of not doing the insurance and not relying on insurance because insurance is come and go.
Mhm.
So, whatever they're doing today is going to be different tomorrow. And that's just the nature of the beast until somehow or another we get a handle on this stuff. But for the most part, you need to educate your patients about who and what you are and the value of that. So maybe part of your year-end plan is to say, we've been a little lax in that. Next year, we're going to add, some type of classes that they can either have access to online or live, whatever. You never know. But this is the time to make those decisions, not struggling to catch up because you're behind.
Right. So another area that we give advice is about the physical plant itself, like going around. I think it's a cool time of year to go around the office. You probably have to rip down decorations anyway for the holidays, but
You're going to clean the office, so go do it.
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
But it's that time to like sit where the patient sits, walk where they walk, and make sure that the equipment is all set. Do you have an AED in the office? If you do, are the pads, still
Sure.
not expired, hopefully, or the battery pack, or, like all those little things, the extinguishers, the this, the that. It's the time to get that checklist out and start going through that and, refresh the batteries where you need to, check the LEDs, the leads, all that stuff.
We have a doctor that I'm friendly with, and he sees a very high volume. So when you think about how many people move through that office in a month, it's significant. And he says that he has his rugs cleaned every week, and he paints one room of his office every month.
Wow.
And then you think about that and you go, oh, yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Until you actually do the math. And because of his volume, he probably has more people touching and moving through that office in a month than most practitioners do in a year. So it all is a time, just what you said. You walk through the office based upon the wear and tear of your office, which is heavily dependent upon the volume of your office. You may have to do things a little more often. And because you get comfortable, you just overlook it. So this is the time of year. There's no patients in the office. You're all doing all these tasks. You're all together. You're all a team, and you do the march through. What do they call that on the aircraft carriers? Where everybody lines up and they walk the deck
Yeah.
to look for
Whatever.
screws and bolts and nuts or whatever, And there's a name for it, and somebody in the Navy will probably send that to me. I
Screaming
hope.
out right now.
Yeah, but they literally line up and walk the deck. And that's what we're talking about here. It's some way or another. At the end of the year, you line up and walk the deck.
I have this idea. What if, we all have that friend or family member that is maybe a little too honest. No filter. What if you brought them into your office and said, "Hey, pick it apart. I want to hear your opinion," or I want to, I want you to just let me have it. It's kind of like when real estate agents do the walkthrough and like, you see those shows where they record it and you get all this feedback as an owner and it's like insulting sometimes.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got to make sure that you
But I think that
have the strength to do.
yeah, right. Or maybe have one of your staff people listen to the feedback and filter it for you. But, because, honestly, if it's just you doing it, sometimes you're not going to see it. You're not going to smell it. You're not going to feel it. You're not going to hear it.
You get used to it. You accommodate and adapt just like the body, right? So you accommodate and adapt to things, and all of a sudden you don't go and clean those corners. You don't clean the cobwebs out. You start overlooking it because those bugs in the light are having a birthday, and you stop seeing them. Whatever.
Yeah. And then, hey, as someone who does my own bookkeeping, please, please, please help your bookkeeper out and get those W-9s, because especially, and with your employees, I don't know if you still do paper W-2s, but I didn't get it. I need to get it reprinted. I don't forget about it. To me, you shouldn't pay a vendor unless you have a W-9, because after you pay them, you're never going to get that thing.
And the simple walkaway is that there is a lot to closing your business. We always keep trying to bring you back to the fact that there's the chiropractic practice and then there's the chiropractic business. So at the end of the year, we have our year end and the beginning of the new year. Take it as an opportunity to examine your chiropractic business and fix what needs to be fixed, replace what needs to be replaced, change what needs to be changed. But do it deliberately, and do it because you sat down, hopefully as a team, and worked all this out.
And so it is New Year's Eve day. We truly hope that you've had a wonderful year. We certainly have. We've been enjoying this podcast for sure. We'd love your feedback too at all. I know you probably hear it in the outro, but allthingschiropractic.com. We really do want to hear what you have to say. Give us some feedback. Let us do our year-end review for ourselves by getting some feedback from you.
Exactly.
And please enjoy your New Year's Eve. Stay safe out there. We want you back here for 2026.
That's right. You need to listen to us.
Yeah, that's why. Exactly.
It's all about me. Yeah.
See what I live with, people? With that, thank you again for listening to All Things Chiropractic. I'm Paul Andrews.
I'm Dr. Mark Davini. Happy New Year.
Thanks for listening to All Things Chiropractic. We'd love to hear from you. Visit allthingschiropractic.com with comments, episode ideas, or questions. Or connect with us on Facebook and Instagram at All Things Chiropractic Podcast. Be sure to join Dr. Mark Davini and Paul Andrews next time for another episode of All Things Chiropractic.